Inquiry. Urban elective. X. Seattle sucks. : How to avoid the Seattle freeze. Class? Hello, Greg.
I am so fucking confused.
Well, just bear with me here. Hello.
Computer talk.
Hello, my internet girlfriend. No, just kidding. Hello, Greg, Brian, and Colin. I'm reaching out on behalf of Urban Elective. We host classes at local breweries, wineries, and restaurants that are focused on providing trendy, affordable education to local millennials.
They advertise themselves as trendy? That's like...
It's in
That's
here.
like...
People won't know you're cool if you don't tell them.
That's what being cool is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reaching out to you because we thought you might be a good fit to teach one of our classes. Specifically, we thought a class on Seattle Sucks. How to avoid the Seattle freeze. Or some variation of this could be interesting.
Avoid? I think we'd be experts on embracing the Seattle freeze, if anything.
What I feel like we know they've listened to at least 10 minutes of one episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mean this bot, transcribed 10 minutes of an episode. Okay, alright. Is there more to this pitch here?
Well, yeah, so here's the facts. The fast facts you need to know about Urban Elective. If we elect to be trendy and urban.
Which we will.
Which we definitely will, because we love local millennials.
Yep, we're teaching a class.
And we need to affordably educate them.
Honestly, this podcast isn't making us much money so far, so...
Well, wait till you hear this. Classes run 6 weeks at a time, for 2 hours each week. Okay, that doesn't sound great. But we pay you $50 an hour to teach for us. Exclusive of material fees. Courses take place all over Seattle. You create your own syllabus, course materials. You will be given the emails of all your students after the end of the quarter. Sweet.
I'm in. I'm in. Wait, I want to go back to exclusive of material fees.
Meaning that they'll also pay for material expenses.
Ooh, I'm definitely in. I could use more pens.
But, okay, so that's like $600 for each of us, or we split between the three of us?
See, that's what I would
No, it's
also
definitely
like to know.
$50 a class, period.
Yeah.
Like, $50 will show up to whoever shows up
an
that
hour.
day.
But, so it's 2-hour classes.
It's $100 a week for 6 weeks.
Can we get a whiteboard? I need a whiteboard.
I imagine we would have a whiteboard.
They probably, have that in their little kit. But this is like when David Brent does the, that business class where he puts his hat on backwards and exits to Simply the Best or whatever. Okay, who would sign up for a class like this?
I don't know.
I guess this is this must be a South Lake Union thing, right?
Well, it says all over Seattle.
Yeah, okay.
They're clearly not recouping their $50 though.
It seems
what they paid us.
It seems unlikely.
This is it's going to be a bunch of coders who are from out of town who are I want to learn about making friends.
Yeah.
I am not even joking right now. We should do this. I have a strong in support of doing this class.
What would your class be on, Brian?
How and on the bus to be the most annoying motherfucker on the bus by not moving forward when the bus is full and other people are trying to get on, or stalking people on Tinder.
I would want to teach people how to make to punish native Seattleites for their really weird antisocial behavior on the sidewalk.
Fuck you, traitor.
By when you're walking down the sidewalk in a neighborhood, just act like a normal human being would anywhere else in the world and smile. And if you're really, really have nerves of steel, wave and say hello or good afternoon as you walk by and try to make eye contact with them. And it's funny because if you don't do that, what they'll do as they're walking along is just about the time, you would normally make eye contact, they'll be like, oh, look at that tree up there, or, oh, what's wrong with my shoes right now, or what's that in the gutter? Like, if they have a dog, they'll look down at it,
I just always take my phone out and pretend like I got a text.
Wow, that is really
Also,
hardcore.
for our longtime listeners, this is the second time you're probably hearing this bit.
That's probably true. Okay, but so that's what they do if you don't do anything, and what you do if you smile and nod at them or say hello is what the way they react is by doing exactly the same thing as if you didn't say or do anything.
That's right.
But deep inside they are made very uncomfortable.
Yeah, It doesn't feel good. I don't like it.
Well, your real class should be how to make friends by starting a podcast.
What?
It is working.
It is working.
Well,
I hung out with Bezos Town today. If you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard us mention Bezos Town, so hopefully you've been following his account.
Yeah, please do that now.
Basically,
if you're not doing it.
Bezos Town account is like, imagine a crank like with a bunch of Google alerts for everything to do with Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and that's like a service that we have used and need in this world and in this city. Someone just watching every possible story and tweeting about it. And I guess it's been such a trial that he's taking a vacation from Bezos Town.
Yeah, well, he's earned it for sure.
Yeah, he has. He's put in the work. And so now everyone should go follow him at Wild World News. What's the @
I will find it.
But anyway, yeah, I hung out. I met the rabbits and the entire zoo of animals over at his house. So, yeah.
Well, and people who are familiar with the show will know too that it's canon that nobody on the show's friends with Greg, and that includes Bezos Town. Actually,
that is true.
Yeah. Me and Colin were fast friends. Greg left out.
Yeah, you have to have lived in Texas to be a real friend. So the @ is Wild World News.
Okay, cool. So wait, what would did you
what's your
say
class?
your class?
Well, so my idea is that we would say that we're going to do this, and then we just wouldn't go.
Which is the perfect lesson
That
in Seattle.
is fucking good, dude.
Or respond with something really non-committal that makes them think we're gonna do it, and then again, just never go.
Just be like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, like,
How many
oh,
people
sure,
are-
I think we could do that. Yeah, we might be free. Just send us the information.
No, we want them to put a date on the calendar because we want people to show up for this class.
Yeah, to do it right, we'd have
And
to...
just be dashed and just be like,
you have to
wow.
affirm. But to be steadfast committed to the bit, you have to pretend to be enthusiastic about it with no intention of ever going.
Oh, okay, to take it to the next level, we would then actually sign up for the class.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
But under assumed names or something.
Yeah, two of us should be shills. And
then all three of us can show up and just be in the class and watch them go like, I'm sorry, we can't get a hold of our... And then try and salvage it from there. And no, it would just be a really sad waste of time. This is funny to talk about, but let's please not do this.
All right,
it's on the
time for a
schedule.
little
It's on the
game
schedule.
theory. So something that's really cool before we move on is this Urban Elective company seems to be based out of LA, and their marketing tagline is "Life is your school."
Then why do I need to pay you to learn anything?
School of life, motherfucker.
Because it sounds like a brew pub is your school, is their pitch.
I'm already picturing first day of class. One of us, whoever's teaching, comes in. We sit down with all the other students. We complain, where's the teacher at? Where's the teacher at? Right? As it starts to, the uproar gets bigger and bigger, you stand up, you turn your baseball cap from backwards to forwards, and you go, I am the teacher. That just blow your minds?
I was the teacher the whole time.
By the way, that's the end of the class. Get out.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just been a part of a happening. Oh.
Welcome back to Seattle Sucks, a podcast about hating the city we love. I'm Colin, Greg's here too, and Brian is here as well.
Captain Brian.
Captain Brian is here.
No, dude.
Greg lost his captainship in a vicious, brutal Memorial Day mutiny. He had to walk the plank. There was vomit, I think I heard. Tiki drinks.
Tiki drinks are involved.
Only 2 of those things are true.
It was a punchy coup. But yeah, we're here. We're back. It sounds like we might be teachers now.
Mm-hmm. We all have new jobs.
In the School of Life.
Because you guys won't sign on to the Patreon. We all have new jobs.
We gotta hustle. This is our side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Our side hustle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that like a second derivative of working?
No, it goes. It's like it's in a different dimension, though.
I mean, this has been a really big week since we spoke to Christopher. All kinds of wild things have happened, but one thing that I found particularly funny, I guess, was the Amazon shareholder vote.
Okay, yeah.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah, only a little bit.
It's always hilarious when people try.
Well, I'm just not sure what they were expecting. So, if you weren't paying attention to this, and there's been a lot of Amazon news, but this was a pretty big story. They had their annual shareholders meeting where the shareholders and other, sounds like employees because they're shareholders, can bring up their ideas for how to improve the school, like there will be a new snack machine on every floor.
It's like Futurama where like the custodian just stands up and complains about his bucket or whatever. Right? Just like cranks to yell shit out.
Yeah.
Like longer recess.
Yeah, longer recess. Better playground equipment. More sex rooms. I don't know if that's just a Google thing, but apparently there were 11 proposals. And ahead of this, though, the credulous liberal media was really eating this up. The New York Times ran a piece that the headline was, "Over 4,200 Amazon workers push for climate change action, including cutting some ties to big oil." So this was
when you say push for,
one.
what do you mean? Meaning,
well,
what did they do to push for it?
So, they formed a coalition, which I believe was the Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. And by the time this went to vote, there was almost 8,000 employees who were associated with this coalition, and they had created a resolution.
Who had liked the Facebook page or something?
Yeah, right, exactly. Or shared it to all their friends. And this was the highest profile issue. So the shareholder meeting happens, and can any of you guess the success rate of any of these?
So they wanted Amazon to like divest from
oil. That was one thing, but also to like improve
from all the things that make money. Well, Amazon famously doesn't give a shit about money, so I'm gonna say that Jeff personally accepted every one of these resolutions.
I think you're right. Well, actually, what happened is not a single one passed, and Jeff wouldn't even come out to listen to at least the climate action group speak. So I happened to see a tweet.
You mean he wouldn't sit in a room on camera and have some activists
berated by his employees
what he should do with his company? Weird.
Yeah.
Or, like, Jeff wouldn't just go talk to his... Like, it doesn't have to be that far. Like, he wouldn't deign to talk to his employees. Much less, like, have a conversation. It's like, I talk at you, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Because apparently she asked if he was going to be there. They kind of were like, no.
I demand an audience with the king.
And then I think they kind of said, like, he might be listening. And so, of course, what she prepared was written as though she was speaking to Jeff. Mm-hmm. And she ends her plea, like, Jeff, will you commit now? to taking all these steps.
To just an empty stage.
Yeah.
It was just the Clint Eastwood bit.
And the thing about this is like all these things, or most of these things, especially the climate action thing, they're not bad things, right? But
yeah, like people's hearts are in the right place.
They're absolutely in the
sure.
right place. But why on earth would you think that this was going to work?
Yeah.
Well,
and that's not to like. This is a real question too, because like,
absolutely,
this is not to just shit on like anybody trying anything, but this is what like having a political perspective like actually means, like having any understanding of how power works or anything. These people are relying by asking this, and I mean maybe. And it seems like they were really disappointed, too.
They were.
That's
yeah,
why we're laughing at this, because they were really disappointed.
Because they felt really bad, so now we're piling on.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, if this was a tactic of like, well, let's like put this on the record, you know, it is useful for that. It's like, look, this was proposed in the open, in public, at a shareholder meeting, and they turned it down. That is politically instrumental, but that is not really the perspective of these people. These guys were like, let's, we're part of the team. Let's, we're technically investors in the company.
Yeah, they legitimately believe in the Amazon family. And
right.
They're going to ask Daddy if he will do something for them.
The warden, if he'll increase yard time.
Well, what they're doing is relying on the actual shareholders, the big money players.
Yeah.
They're relying on their sense of noblesse oblige.
Yeah.
To point out, you, as our lords, our liege lords, have a responsibility to society, to the community, to do the right thing in this instance, and we are merely bringing this before your throne for you to sign, to like, and like that's just not gonna happen because, for better or worse, feudalism's been over for a while now, and capital has no obligation to fucking anyone.
Only to itself.
Well, and by the way, a thing that never worked in feudalism either.
No.
Like, let's take the peasants that put together this petition that we're going to take to Ivan the Terrible. It turns out he has actually killed us all.
But it was one principle that justified the system. That principle doesn't even exist in this system.
Well, and I think that, like, coming from people who are literally doing the least they can do, this is literally the least you can do. Like, I mean, so nobody should get, like, too excited. I mean, they had no follow-up plan or anything like that, but I think that's why, like, the New York Times liked it and stuff like that. Is like, yeah, this is what real resistance looks like. It's not getting in the streets.
People being reasonable, using the system,
asking,
and
not raising their voices.
And you know who these were all people who had a stake in it, right? These were shareholders bringing. Yeah, they had property rights to raise their positions. They had a stake in the game. This is like foundational concept of American democracy here.
Well, and the proper way to complain about your work is to very politely ask your boss to do something and then shut the fuck up when he doesn't do it. So, cool.
Well, maybe some of these people learn a lesson and be radicalized by this and go like, oh, you can't ask these fucking people nicely. Because then now maybe they'll be made aware of the power imbalance here and go like, oh, we actually had no power in that situation at all. And that's why nothing changed. And go, we have to find a way to make power and exercise it. And then just make rich people do things.
Yeah.
You can't ask.
That's what's so funny to me about it.
You gotta use a stick.
Is that it feels like that basic cable show or that over-the-air show like Kid Town or whatever, where they just let a bunch of kids run a city, It was kind of like...
Why the fuck is that show not on anymore?
I don't know.
That should be on 24 hours a day.
It was pretty good. What the fuck were you thinking, really? I mean, you have to be a true believer, and I think that speaks to how powerful corporations are. Not just Jeff Bezos, but how powerful corporations, especially large corporations like Amazon, how much power they wield over us and how much control they exert on like our sense of reality. Because
yeah, oh, absolutely.
What they should have thought to do was maybe work with government, but instead they're trying to go through this corporation.
Yeah. Well, they're basically, and again, like, you have to have layers of delusion to think that asking your boss to do the right thing is never going to get you anywhere.
Work, right.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that, yeah, if this was like a little bit of theater as the first, moment of a strike, like, yeah, like that would be badass.
That would
like,
definitely be badass.
Yeah, they're like, Jeff's not going to talk to us? Well, this is what we want, and by the way, we're also on strike now. And then they might have seen the wheels of Amazon actually starting to move, once something actually affected Jeff happened.
They're being represented in the media as employees, and probably some were not. Probably some of the larger number, the 8,000 who I'm guessing basically signed on to a Facebook page or something.
Click the button that says yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do not have stock in the company, but basically this was a coalition of low-level employees who have stock, who thus had some voting rights and a right to actually speak. So we really shouldn't be thinking of them as employees. These were a small group of shareholders.
Right.
Okay, that was the power they were trying to exercise.
Yeah.
So the next phase would actually be a capital strike.
There you go.
Where if they really wanted to get serious and exercise their power, I don't think they have much, but it would be to get a bunch of shareholders on their side to threaten to dump the fucking stock or something.
Yeah,
I don't think that would have any effect ultimately.
Yeah, the problem is that just like all these companies, they own
nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They own such a minuscule amount because
literally
all the
lot more people on board.
Yeah, all the stock is owned by a very small amount of people who all don't care in any way because they're the worst people on the planet.
Yeah,
including
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, and one of the things that maybe they should have thought about was hey, in lieu of pay, Amazon keeps giving us this paper they're just printing in the back.
Yeah.
And they told us that makes us part of the family. They told us that this gives us a say in the company. Mm-hmm. And then when we came and did the things they told us to do, they literally told us, fuck you, we're not listening to anything you have to say. It just ignored us in the most hilariously obvious way possible. It made us look like idiots just talking to an empty microphone on a stage. And maybe they should have some thought in their mind about maybe this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Maybe they will now.
Bullshit.
Maybe they will now.
This is the Wizard.
Yeah.
Should be the Wizard of Oz moment.
Yeah,
well, I think
it won't be, but it should be.
What they thought was the way liberals think about activism, which is you just get. It's not about building. It's not about organizing. Mm-hmm. It's not about building a larger consciousness.
It's definitely
about
not about organizing. They want to be very clear.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
It's about getting a few activists to get in the headlines, to make stories. A march that shows, look, a bunch of people in the street that represent, a larger nothing, but it's just that you're really about. It's like a marketing strategy. It's look, we got just enough people to get in the New York Times and get talked about. And that's the way to politics. And it's not the way to anything, obviously.
Yeah, well, and I guess there's never that day two, because we're constantly on day one. But there's never that day two of okay, we did the thing that we're told we're supposed to do by the press, by whatever, right? And they completely fucking ignored us and just didn't give a shit. And there's never that second day where they're okay, that didn't work, so maybe we should do something else, rethink our strategy or rethink this strategy or think about why they can just ignore us. Because even the marches and stuff, which is more than just complaining in a shareholder meeting, but there was a million people marched against the war in 2003, and they just fucking George W. Bush famously said, I don't listen to focus groups, and did it anyways. It's there probably should have been a bigger process of thinking about that afterwards, about why it was so easy to just not give a shit about what anybody says.
Well, it's we don't learn that. That's been burned into our minds, but we just don't learn that lesson. I mean, it's weird. That's all people could think to do. It's have a march once a year on some topic, and
Well, people
That's
like it because it feels like you're doing something, and it maybe even feels
It's
a touch
nostalgic in a way.
transgressive. Yeah, it's nostalgic, but everybody is pretty aware that like nothing really is gonna happen or come of it, right? There's no risk really. Whereas, like labor organizing, that's a risk. Like you lose your fucking job.
Totally.
Yeah. You know,
It's
know.
The story that we mostly hear of the civil rights movement is basically boiled down to a handful of marches, and like it was actually a bunch of actions, including strikes.
Yeah, strikes,
and boycotts.
Yeah, the complete taking over of cities. Yeah, like you know, things like that. But yeah, well, yeah, because everybody thinks that because the way it's taught to you, and this is like part of the sort of like weird whitewashing of like MLK with MLK Day and stuff like that, is that you know, the civil rights marchers, they just presented a really strong moral argument. And all the, like, shithead segregationists and, like, all the people in the North who've been supporting segregation for centuries they all just, you know, they heard that moral argument, like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I guess we should change that. And it's like, as if those people had no skin in the game and could just do that, you know, like,
And that there is a marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, that you can engage in, that people, one, engage in, like, honestly, and two, that, like, again, that you're going to go to the king and convince the king to hand over the money. You know, the kingdom's money.
It's like a debate club.
Yeah.
What actually happened was, like you said, they took over shit. And they caused fucking chaos. Like,
some of the biggest strike waves in American history, which, by the way, MLK supported giant strikes and things like that, weirdly never comes up. But also, like, you know, I mean, the taking over of Detroit, right? And having, like, a Detroit Revolutionary Council in charge of Detroit weirdly never comes up again. Or Newark. I mean, the fact that the Vietnam War was significantly hindered by having to bring soldiers back to, like, retake American cities. And that, you know, part of Nixon's thing about bringing the army out of Vietnam and just having the Air Force bomb the shit out of it is he was convinced that we're going to need the army to basically take over probably huge numbers of American cities and just occupy them. So we need to bring them back, right? And it's like, that scares people. Like that scared wealthy people, right? And that actually made them bend on issues and things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, asking politely, why would a fucking rich person ever give a shit what you have to say? I mean, like, you know, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I'm not hopeful that anyone will like learn any lesson from this. Because we haven't learned any lesson so far. I mean,
yeah. Well, what important projects was Jeff? What important projects did Jeff say yes to though?
Well, none of these. Not facial recognition. Not.
One of them was that they wanted to not have facial recognition software be sold to ICE. Yep. Amazon boldly is going to do that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's a government contract. They're taking it.
Rule it out. Hate speech, sexual harassment. There was a rad one that was basically like, don't let Jeff Bezos be CEO anymore.
That rules. That actually rules. Yeah. People should put that up every meeting.
Oh, these are fucking hilarious. Board diversity, pay equity. Again, these are the kids that don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
They think this is how you make change.
Yeah, well, and that, like, the reason why pay is divided along class and gender lines, or race and gender lines, has nothing to do with, like, them wanting to seize that extra... Like, pay is not about exploitation. They must have just made a mistake in payroll that we can just easily correct, right? I'm sure that Jeff will be happy to sign over that giant chunk of money he got from exploiting people. You know?
Fucking Jeff. Well, speaking of exploiting people, he's been scanning people's bodies.
Oh, no. So here's the project Jeff did get behind.
There were two big projects that he came out ahead on, and that is luring people with a 3D scan of your body wearing, what was it, like a swimsuit or something?
Well, no, you could wear, you get an Amazon gift card for doing it. Okay. And
for
you
how
could
much?
Company script
didn't say, and you could wear either loose clothing or they want some of form-fitting swimsuits.
So what nefarious things do you think they're doing? I mean, you had some theories, I think, Brian.
Yeah. Jeff's looking for a bride. I think he specifically is trying to find the most the person whose body is the most out of this world. And I mean that as in literally maybe not from this world.
No,
Jeff wants to fuck an alien.
No, we all know Jeff wants to fuck an alien. I think this is much more mundane. I think this is just about the quest for data. The quest for data to be churned by, AI algorithms to be used in all kinds of scenarios. Just to have a repository of the human form in all of its permutations, but principally for the purpose of sex bots.
Well, maybe he's just become a good old-timey, eugenicist, and he's like, that is the waist-hip, ratio of a very typical Gaelic.
This is neo-phrenology. Yeah. Oh, geez. So there's that.
Typical kneecap of somebody from the west of the Caucasus.
Oh, Christ. So yeah, he's scanning people, and he's wishing Mackenzie good luck. He's giving her that thumbs up. Because his fucking tweets to her are so funny. So, she announces this with a letter that says she's gonna join the Club of Billionaire, and we learned recently, Millionaire Super Friend.
People as poor as 100 millionaires.
So he writes, okay, well, and he's got the link, and her face is looking like Naomi Watts, like her headshot when she arrives to LA in Mulholland Drive. But it says, Mackenzie is going to be amazing and thoughtful and effective at philanthropy, and I'm proud of her. Her letter is so beautiful. Go get him, Mackenzie. And so then one of the Go Off Kings, Stephen Heck, says, hope she sees this, bro.
That's fucking good.
He's not really happy about this. He can't be, right?
No, he's got to be fuming.
Oh, right. He has... Yeah.
No, about what? About her doing the giving pledge?
About her having any of his money and then doing the giving pledge?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. That's the biggest...
She's basically the Joker at throwing the match.
Honestly, I wouldn't even care that she burned billions of dollars, that she just burned it in front of him. That'd be fucking funny as shit.
This is better than burning it in front of him, because this isn't... She's taking... It's his money that he hasn't given away up to now, and has made no pledge to. The only way anyone got it out of his hands into any charity that wasn't just, his gift to the world, Amazon, is by her taking the money away. Which, it's like, it's like that's what had to happen. It had to get out of his control to be pledged to charity, right?
Yeah, which is what a lot of people had speculated. But
that's just such a perfect move for her, just throw it in his face.
Well, we'll hold on to it, and we'll speculate here in a second about Jeff's feelings.
It is funny how they're both kind of doing this with a smile, but it's pretty clear that there's got to be some animosity here.
Good for Jeff. You guys were being, I gotta be honest, I think a little cynical, thinking that Jeff was mad. I think that he just is loving life, loving his ex.
I think he's squeezing that, human-sized panda real tight.
He sleeps with it.
Though then again, he was at the Met Gala with Lauren Sanchez, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that the new girlfriend? Was it ever confirmed that it was her brother that sold the photos?
I think it was strongly implied. I don't think we know yet.
God, that fucking rules.
I
so funny.
I haven't heard anything more about it, but that's our boy Jeff and Amazon.
Yeah. Well, good for you, Mackenzie, making him look like the fucking Scrooge that he is.
And also, we do support taking all of Mackenzie's money and Jeff's money.
Yeah.
Nobody needs $1 billion.
No, not even $1 billion. Okay, well, that was Amazon. I think it having just been Memorial Day, we were feeling especially patriotic. We're real ginned up about the prospect of going to war with Iran, which we've talked about, I think, on the previous episode.
Yeah.
So this was something that I didn't follow too much. I'm going to have to delegate to you guys, but understand that we're revisiting a very special American war that's very near and dear to all our hearts, which was Vietnam.
Yeah, I went ahead and ghost wrote an article for the Seattle Times.
It was beautiful. I'm so proud of you, Brian.
Well, this year is the something anniversary of, I don't know, the middle of that very long war or something. I don't know.
Yeah, what can you possibly be... the anniversary of that time, they killed like 500,000 kids, on Christmas.
Well, the anniversary of the start of... This is an anniversary of the start of the Nixon administration, who...
Got us out of Vietnam.
Changed the, progressed the war from, like, genocide from the sky to more wider genocide from the sky. So, yeah, alright. But go on. Read us Brian's ghost-written article.
Okay, Greg, I will do that for you. I will read this for the first time.
So Jacobin turned this down?
Jacobin turned it down. The Seattle Times actually gave me a large fee, but they said they're going to put some guy named Eric's name on it. But he did not write that. I want to be extremely clear. He did not write this piece. I wrote it. If he tells you he wrote it, he's a liar.
This is your nom de guerre.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to open it in an incognito window. My hand got slapped by
Seattle Times.
In Blue Seattle, a B-52 used in Vietnam is dedicated as new memorial park opens.
Go on.
I feel like this is going to go good places.
And this is by Eric.
Let's memorialize a
Death.
real B-52, the strategic bomber, because Empire requires strategy.
Well, dropping hundreds of bombs at a time is always strategic.
Well, we'll learn that it's also fun to drop bombs later, but...
They came for the war. They stayed for the fun.
Eric Lycidas wrote this. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name correctly.
I'm glad that you put the quotes up when you did that, too.
Yeah, you're right. Eric. The Vietnam vets arrived at the Saturday ceremony at the Museum of Flight to rock music from that era playing over the loudspeakers. This is a fucking terrible sentence, by the way.
Fuck off.
Oh, hold on, Greg. What kind of rock music was it?
Sorry, Eric. I didn't mean to insult your prose. In 1967, they were listening to The Doors, Light My Fire, in Da Nang 2.
Rules.
That has got to be one of the most annoyingly, like, just fuzzy-headed obfuscations, but also, like, just such a tacky like this obsession with rewriting the history of that war as, like, the rock and roll war. Where you see in America there was a youth culture, and because we sent kids to Vietnam, there was a youth culture there too. Oh, and they did drugs.
Because they're having so much fun.
Well,
yeah.
Greg, Charlie didn't rock, so we had to bring the rock.
We had to bring the rock. Oh, those damn commies didn't. They never heard Jim Morrison before. By the way, if you're fucking over 13 and listening to The Doors, you should be beaten to death.
Yeah.
And I am strongly in favor of this.
Okay.
That's the one bit of politics I believe in.
The Doors.
Jeff didn't sign on to that.
Are best understood as a self-aware parody psychedelic rock band. Okay,
the Lizard King had self-awareness.
The first album, that Light My Fire, written by Robbie Krieger, the guitarist, is a totally earnest, idiotic pop song. But after that first album, it's all a big joke to everyone but Robbie Krieger, who takes it seriously to this day, and but to everyone else, it was like, oh wow, holy shit, this worked, we became famous. And they just can't help having a sense of humor about it. That's my theory on The Doors. Maybe no one else feels that way, but it is very stupid.
I will tell you
like it anyway.
a little story from Brian's past. Is for Christmas when I was... how old are you in 5th grade? Like 11, something like that? 12? Yeah. For Christmas in 5th grade, my mom bought me a book of Jim Morrison's poetry.
Hell yeah.
And it sparked a lifelong hatred of poetry. Young Brian. He was reading it going, it must be important because they say it's poetry, but it seems pretty stupid.
That is why people... That is why you have that reaction about the Doors, is because the posthumous and especially 90s like nostalgic look back on him as this great American poet, absolutely fucking ridiculous nonsense meant to sell t-shirts. But whatever. Anyway, but what's worse is this association of the war, and it's all tied up in this boomer obsession with the music of the period.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but every movie, every Vietnam movie, they use the same fucking rock songs in all of it. It's, oh my god, it's so bad.
Well, classic American hits from the Rolling Stones. But yeah, I mean, the thing is that the reason why boomers are obsessed with music from the late 60s is they all know that none of them marched in the civil rights movement. None of them like were against the war or anything like that. But they did listen to the cool music
radio.
of the time, and so that's become the rebellion now. Yeah. They want the credit for the rebellion, but they like to get to it.
Oh, that's deep, man.
Damn.
No, that's real. No, that makes sense because, again, I've confessed this before on this podcast. This is very clear right now. Like I do have like an undeniable thing for that boomer fucking if there's music that white people have appropriated from black people, I'm probably gonna like it. So, unless it's too contemporary. But like I acknowledge, I don't think it's like this great like cultural thing that needs to be remembered, except in the sense that rock music is dumb now, and it did have a brief moment where it was like there was a cultural moment as an art form of kind of a dumb, simple pop musical form that it had like a brief moment, and that's their only thing because they weren't part of anything else good.
Well, this is how they steal valor in a way that is like acceptable to them or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like it had a moment of like vibrancy and cultural vibrancy, but of course it's long since dead, and even its moment is the stories are a little overblown.
Oh, it's way exaggerated.
But we should be clear that we are in Greg's boat, which is very ornately decorated, lots of granite, lots of everything like that. But there's Iggy Azalea posters everywhere, so Greg is right about it. He loves anything that's appropriated. He loves.
Yeah, he keeps talking about Xanax and bars and
I
don't even know what's going on anymore. Some were gray-haired, some used walkers. Others brought their kids and grandkids, so that the crowd numbered nearly 3,000.
Damn, just like the Spartans. No, that's not right. That's definitely not right.
Times 10. Eventually, most walked under the wings of the event's centerpiece, the mammoth Boeing B-52 Stratofortress bomber that was saved from the scrapyard and repainted in its original tan, gray, and green camouflage colors.
Saved from the scrapyard. There's like
because there's 8 million of them.
There's tons of them still flying today, even though they have not a new one's been built since like the mid '60s. But all the decommissioned ones are all just sitting in like a New Mexico desert, like in nearly perfect condition. They didn't save shit.
They should be, they're all there awaiting a future war crimes trial.
It's the docket, holy shit. Okay, so I'm guessing the plaque memorializing the... How many millions dead?
The 3 million dead in Indochina.
Indochina is, it's a little brass square on a rock just below the Bombay doors of the Stratofortress.
I'm sure that they had, a relevant historian giving a very good speech about the many war crimes committed by the United States in Vietnam.
Yeah, putting it all in perspective.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe not talking about American sacrifice, but talking about the literal genocide of the people in South Asia.
We couldn't tell the good ones from the bad, Brian. Dono Hash.
Well, there's an easy solution to that, and the perfect tool is the B-52 mattress.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't have to tell shit.
The Lord will sort him. Dono Hash, 69 of Spanaway, an Army veteran.
I'm sorry, what is his fucking name?
Dono, D-O-N-O.
Hash?
Hash?
These are made-up names.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I did write this article. I made all the names up.
Well,
Hash.
All the quotes are actually from me. I just put the names on.
You put an American flag bandana on, dropped some LSD, and then started, doing martial arts in your room.
Oh, my God.
A veteran who earned a Purple Heart over there. This is written like a child, but anyway.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, Eric. Remembered hearing the B-52s on their bombing runs. It felt like an earthquake. The carpet bombing, he said. 500 pounds leaving nice little craters for fish ponds.
Right, that's what those were for leaving fish ponds.
Yeah, it was terraforming.
Oh my God. What a despicable piece of shit.
Well, yeah, what a
Fuck the troops,
bizarre,
by the way. Fuck the troops.
Yeah.
Of all the things that a bomb does, you're gonna talk about the crater.
Look at the cute little craters. He's picturing, koi.
Well, even in death, there is
Well, the thing is, too, is, every long war, things like that, up until now, the troops just love it. But every long war forever always had, huge numbers of troops who were fuck this shit sucks, and for, years afterwards talk about how it sucked, and, rebelled during the fighting, and, of course, in Vietnam, they famously, shot their officers and things like that. But what we're seeing right now, the reason why you can revive, Vietnam nostalgia, is all those people lived fucking hard lives of being treated like absolute shit for fucking decades after the war because they resisted it, and are all dead now. They're all dead from living those kind of lives.
From getting back and being dishonorably discharged and then living on the streets and dying.
Yeah, and all that kind of shit. Yeah, and now all the ones who fucking picked their ass and
went back for a second deployment.
Yeah, or spent the entire war bombing people from 50,000 feet in the air
and loving it.
Yeah, are the only ones still fucking alive, and for them it was great. It was the best time of their fucking lives, which is why if you see a proud Vietnam vet with a walker, kick that fucking walker out from under them. When they're on the ground squiggling like a fucking turtle, you should just, a turtle that you just turned over, you should be like, that's just a little taste. Just a little fucking taste. That'll be a fucking eternity of this.
Yeah, be happy your skin isn't
let's make the myth of the, Vietnam vets returning and getting spit on and just being reviled by crowds of people. Let's turn that bullshit myth into a reality.
It was never real at the time, but it should be fucking real right now.
Yeah, seriously. If someone says shit like that, fucking...
Yeah, that is...
Fish ponds?
That is wild. Truly
Holy
wild.
Fuck. We're just turning that country into the surface of the moon.
Yeah, no big deal. Luckily, nobody lived there.
Fuck, man. Eric, you went hard on this one. This was mostly not the Seattle often portrayed as blue and progressive that had shown up.
Is it not?
Yeah.
See, this is interesting. This is a weird take. It's interesting that he goes here at all, right? Because he's saying he's letting all this other shit drop just matter of fact, but he's like, does this not square with liberal Seattle? It's an interesting question because I guess he's sort of presupposing that this is sort of a conservative view that that war is good and imperialism is necessary and that our military might is beautiful and fun is
and the
this
violence of war is to be celebrated.
Right, it's not this blue thing, but of course we know that's fucking bullshit. We know in what context is that not a blue, meaning democratic thing? And to the extent that, on the other hand, Seattle calls itself progressive, we also know they are in line with, basic Democratic Party politics. And so, that's the answer to his question here. How do you square this circle? And the thing is, it's
and luckily
square.
The majority of the Vietnam War too was fought and escalated by real red Republicans like Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy. So
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, hell, Nixon was to the left of Obama on most things. But that's where we're at right now. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. So fuck, man. But that and too, like, they mentioned Boeing built the fucking plane. I built the fucking thing. Like, goddamn.
Yeah.
Well, to your point,
I should have thought of that when I wrote this.
But it's interesting that he brings it up. Even that he goes this doesn't fit with my nitwit concept of what Seattle is.
Well, I haven't read this, so maybe this is a stupid comment. But it does seem like he just kind of is operating on images alone, like signifiers. So he's not diving into it. He's just saying these images are incompatible. Does not compute.
No, he's just confessing.
And then
he's just confessing.
On.
I guess I don't really understand anything.
Yeah. What's a politics?
Well, he looks like that maid robot from the Jetsons. He's like a big box, right? And he's just wheeling around on one wheel, and he's like, does not compute.
Steam is
does
coming
not
out.
Compute.
Oh, this rocks. Eric, you hit a home run, buddy.
Oh, if you're going to finish with It's a Land of Contrast.
Think about
some of these in here.
Really, look, the last candidate for president in the Democratic Party that Seattle voted for widely, Hillary Clinton, is a major imperialist hawk who's friends with Henry Kissinger, okay? Shit like that.
Friends an actual Vietnam War criminal.
Put it all together, dude.
And who was, frothing at the mouth to go into Syria, and they had to, beat her down to make her...
Well, she famously, apparently, basically bullied the Obama administration to signing up with France to, fucking bomb Libya. Yeah, which is cool. So she basically can be credited with, giving Obama his achievement of being the first black president and the person to reintroduce slave markets to Africa. So cool.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so
weird doesn't come up in her book.
The point for Eric, Brian, is pull your head out of your ass.
Mm-hmm. Look, guys, it's really easy to do a second draft of an article, right?
We are an empire and we love it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, do we ever? So before I go on, there's just the first picture that I'm looking at is all these people that look like someone that would talk to you in your HUD on Metal Gear Solid with a beret. And some guy who I don't know, invented cyborgs. I assume this is Jim Mattis, and everyone's just smiling, having a gay old time in uniform.
Did he go by his name, Mad Dog? He's up there.
The Mad Dog!
Yeah, he takes a big drink off some Mad Dog, dude, just just sitting at home a little bit.
Yeah, everyone's having a great time. Lots of smiles is what I'm saying.
Is he telling them all about how he didn't get that name in the army, but as his previous time as in a biker gang?
I was briefly a uncle of anarchy.
That's what his wife called him when he'd watch Sons of Anarchy. The dedication was for the museum's Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park, which began with saving the bomber and then expanded to include the vets. It also has a bronze statue depicting an aviator and a tribute wall. Jim Mattis, the retired Marine general and former Secretary of Defense who resigned because of disagreements with President Donald Trump, was the keynote speaker.
Oh, well, there you go. Progressive Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Resistance hero Mad Dog Mattis, who I think they wanted to tell us is from Washington State and has moved back here.
That is the next, if you want to call it a paragraph, Eric. Usually paragraphs are longer than one sentence or two sentences.
Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a critic.
The Richland native was greeted with whoops and yells.
Can you fucking imagine?
A lot of hoo-ah or something.
It just says whoops and yells. I'm imagining Ken Burns, Civil War whoops and yells. But he told the crowd, having left Washington, D.C. and returned to the better Washington, and then he did, one of those big, winks where you actually, sell it with the movement of your head. I'm so happy.
Because he's used to talking to Marines.
Yeah. Oh, and the president. I'm so happy, ladies and gentlemen, that I could cry.
Please do.
I don't even really know what that means, but okay.
I don't know, but it's because they were playing some bullshit oldies song that I'm sure that's a lyric. But I mean, like this fucking Vietnam War Memorial Park. I mean, like, I really love that you can't just say that the Vietnam War fucking sucked. At least, like, you can't even say that. Like, it has to because it's part of our like oeuvre. We now have to like celebrate it as some grand achievement of flying halfway around the world to kill millions of people.
There was this brief moment in the 90s where the media was ready to like say for just a half second that the broader cultural take on Vietnam had shifted, that opposition to that war and that it was a disaster had gone somewhat mainstream because Bill Clinton was elected president and because he didn't go to Vietnam and was vaguely again not for it, loosely in a little bit, or was basically he was just a boomer who didn't go to Vietnam. And so it was like, oh, Vietnam's not cool anymore for all of America. But like then, we've just, as part of our post 9/11 like troop worship priority in like everything in American life just has to be worshiping the troops. You're not going to just let that war just go without worshiping it. Like, it can't just be there. You have to worship that war.
Well, you're totally right, because I think it was last year, maybe, that like America's real troops, they have their night of celebration, by which I'm talking about the Oscars. They had some guy, and this is the only thing I remember from it, was they had this guy come out all in his military uniform, and he's like, I am a veteran. And I have no idea why he was there, but he's like, I'm a veteran of the Vietnam War. Rowdy applause. People standing. Boom. That gif of what's her face? That's from that. No, I don't know. That's true. But like it was just like applause everywhere, and I was like, it just always made me laugh. I was like, liberal Hollywood right there for you. But that makes sense. But
no, that's the thing. It is mainstream. I mean, it's because it's troop worship. It's the thank you for your service, and like that. Mm-hmm. We know that's a totally blind, like unthinking. So why would the application be any different to Vietnam? Look, for fuck's sake, we've been worshiping the troops and who went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and those are only slightly less shitty wars than Vietnam. I mean, they ended up killing as many people.
Arguable, probably. But.
Yeah, this is basically as shitty. And I mean, the only reason they killed less people in like Iraq was just that Iraq wasn't politically organized enough to have a resistance, really. Like, I mean, if it had anywhere near the resistance
and most
Vietnam,
of the casualties so many were after the war and the chaos, the vacuum left.
Right.
I mean, just...
and now ISIS and
cool.
What else is this dickhead had to say?
So the Mad Dog goes on to say, he talked about the Vietnam veterans who returned to even find contempt. Although, fortunately, the contempt never represented the majority of their fellow citizens. He thanked them for their patience until the country found its way back to self-respect.
Oh my god.
So, to all of our rants, I mean,
we
were the puppy that lost its way in sniffing the ass of someone that served in a war. After the ceremony, Mattis was surrounded by those wanting smartphone pictures? You can just say pictures, Eric. Come on, man. What the fuck, dude? And autographs.
This was written by a robot. I think that's what we're coming up with. This is written by a fucking... This is the Seattle Times 3000.
This is awful. He did that for 1.5 hours. A vet in the crowd thanked him for the time. No sweat, said the general. You guys served.
Jesus Christ.
I love how,
It'd be great if he had, like, a moment, too, where he was like, who out here in the crowds filled a soccer stadium full of corpses?
He's T-shirt cannon. We're part of the same cult.
Yeah,
we're part of the same priestly class.
Yeah, you killed children. I can do a little crowd work.
No, they are basically our, like... They're monks,
right? Yeah.
They're like they're a monastic order. There are 4 or 5 monastic orders of uniformed services who, like,
that are death cults,
right? They're absolute death cults. They're But you bow to them in the street. You because they're living a life of service to the country, a life of discipline, and they carry that with them even after. And you pay respect. They're a special class.
Terrible.
Fuck the troops. Oh my God.
So now we're gonna hear about this.
Been on a troop for Memorial Day.
Now we're gonna hear about that plane. You guys want to hear that plane? You guys plane guys?
Ooh, plane facts. Yeah, let's do plane facts.
All right. If you parked a B-52 in the middle of a football field, nose facing a goalpost.
Well, this is already too complicated for a football field size analogy.
Well, that's just because Mattis was there. so that's how he understands everything. He's like, in the middle of football. You mean a graveyard, right?
Its 185-foot wingspan would extend more than 10 feet outside each sideline. Wow! It's a big plane.
Okay, wait a minute. Isn't the point of, football field size analogies, which are way too overused, is that
it's not their width.
The other dimension?
Yeah.
Well, Greg, everybody being from Texas understands that silence 40 yards, all right? So get your life together.
I didn't know that either, Greg.
I guess it's supposed to be just a visual image, but still, fuck off.
Which they could have provided, but they don't.
Yeah, you know what also conveys a visual image? Photos.
Smartphone photos. Its 488,000 pounds are powered by 8 turbojet engines.
Cool.
With some versions having a range of 10,000 miles. Think of all the people we can kill.
Well, that was my dick hitting me on the side of the table, guys. Sorry.
Remember that we have just thousands of these the next time the New York Times or the Washington Post loses their fucking mind that North Korea shot a missile 100 miles.
It is such a durable design. I mean, we just don't make them like that anymore, do we, guys?
Well, that's patently true.
It actually does fly. That's how modern fucking military plane.
Yeah.
It can get up in the air without killing half the crew immediately.
That, first flown in 1952, it's expected to be in service beyond 2020. It is
That's the only left flight. When was it exactly that we absolutely forgot how to make planes that fly?
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
This is like Game of Thrones where they built the fucking wall, but now nobody remembers how to do it. Who fucking knows, man?
But the B-52 is an interesting case because even all these older good planes, they've been trying to replace.
Morally good.
Yeah. They've been trying to replace, in these bitter fights, that some, have been public, some private, with these new, more expensive modern planes that suck. But they haven't gotten rid of the B-52, and it's older than fucking anything else flying.
All we need to do
far.
is lease them out to some kind of contracting or array of contractors in our next military intervention, and then they'll just get crashed into the desert or scuttled.
Well, they're definitely going to sell a few to the what the fuck is his name? The education secretary's brother, Eric Prince. Eric Prince definitely going to buy a few. That's for sure.
He probably actually. I imagine Eric Prince lives on a B-52 that's just constantly circulating.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Well, when you have a flying genocide maker, you got to keep that thing going.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to miss the opportunity. That's too good to pass up.
You miss every genocide that you don't.
I love that Eric Prince's total domination and involvement in every conflict, and him and his companies just being present at every mass grave in the world for the last 20 years. Basically boils down to fear of missing out.
All right, so you guys want to know what you can put in this bad boy?
Hell yeah!
All right,
yeah, fuck yeah.
My dick's already hard.
I think you can put that in there.
I'm getting there.
It has carried everything from nuclear weapons, to cruise missiles,
badass,
to dumb bombs that simply free fall.
Oh, fucking rules!
Wow!
And in everything, let's not forget Love. He's carried love.
You know what I think would be ironic is if a new form of capital punishment, since it's so hard to get the lethal injection serum now, is just
Death
to...
by 500-pound bomb?
No, just to drop them out of a B-52.
Just load them up in the bomb bay.
I think that's the same experience as lethal injection. It's this long, drawn-out process while you're fucking terrified.
Yeah, no, you're right. You die on the way down.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, they'd be too scared that it would actually work. I think part of the thrill of lethal injection is that it works like 40% of the time.
Yeah, and they feel everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. It's always the first aircraft in there in a conflict. We knock the door down and let all the other aircraft in to do their job. Thank you, Thomas, the murderous tank engine. A B-52 bomb wing commander was quoted as saying in a 2015 BBC News story.
God, fuck that guy.
So, you
Fuck
just
that
Googled
guy.
B-52
Yeah, this is like if a fifth grader was asked.
By the way, he was literally at an event full of old men.
Yeah, who would have...
And he couldn't get an additional quote.
What? He probably just didn't want to talk to them.
Honestly, good for him.
He'd be there like 7 hours.
Yeah.
The story quoted a weapons systems officer. Think about all the political power this aircraft has. Fuck, dude, B-52 2020.
Hell yeah.
When an F-16, a combat plane, I like how they tell us...
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Look, bitch, we saw Iron Eagle, alright? Know what an F-16 is.
Shows up in your country, big deal. But when a B-52 shows up, they start singing a different tune.
They're talking about fucking genocide here. Like, I love this. It's like, when you put people in a camp, they're like, big deal. But when you start building those showers, their tune changes real fucking quick. And it's like, fuck you. Like, fuck you.
Well, at the same time, that is literally the smartest thing that was said in this entire article by anyone, including the writer. Like that he's correct.
When you bring a tool of previous genocides into a country, and I love too that nobody asked the question too of like, well, why would people be terrified of that? Like,
well, let's point out that in the press release about like 2 weeks ago now about like our ginning up war with Iran about how we were moving ships and stuff, it was a wing of B-52s was at the top of that list. But he's just saying nakedly, openly, he's talking about imperialism. Okay, yeah. He's saying this is what our military's for. It's to scare the shit out of other countries and make them do what we want.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. We love it.
That rules. Did a B-52 drop the mother of all bombs?
Probably.
Okay. It was mostly B-52s that dropped more than...
It got there to drop it. That's probably...
It dropped more than 20,000 tons of bombs, some that are still detonating today, on targets in and around Hanoi and Haiphong during nearly 2 weeks around Christmas, 1972.
Yeah, that was just over 2 weeks.
That is a very gruesome.
Well, that was
Santa Claus.
So that was one offensive, which by the way is cited as a fucking war crime by like most countries in the world. It's part of the reason why Henry Kissinger can't leave the United States, is because of the Christmas bombing, which, according to Kissinger's own fucking logic on this, was that, this was what he called the Madman theory. We go in there and we kill as many people as possible and tell them that we don't want to negotiate. We're going to actually genocide the entire country. And that'll force, the North Vietnamese to agree to whatever terms we put on the table. And the Christmas bombing was the cornerstone of that. It's a literal fucking war crime recognized by fucking everybody. Yeah.
Well, I love the Madman.
But no comment on it.
I love that the Madman theory, and for its logic of check this out, guys.
He's considered a great strategist.
He's like a Rand Corporation game theory strategy guy, who one of the guys who invented all this, adjacent to the guys who invented mutually assured destruction, at Rand Corporation, but his Madman theory thing, it's basically check it out. War. You kill people until they do what you want.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking genius.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point, all it is dressing up, it's like a convoluted, clever-sounding way to say to
Take
a
the gloves
modern
off.
audience just who just describe what war actually is.
Yeah.
That's what war's always been. That's all war is. What's your point, asshole?
Well, and it shows too, like it shows the sort of just nature of imperialism and like the absolutely bereft of any ideas, too, of that Kissinger could be sitting there after we'd already killed probably 2 million people at that point in Southeast Asia. It was like, I don't know, kill more people? That's our big solution. I don't know, kill more people?
Yeah, the secret plan to end the war was
just kill more people.
Take McNamara's metrics where they were tracking like their progress in the war by kill count, and just stick with that pretty much. Just up the ante.
Just do the same thing. Yeah, cool.
President Richard Nixon had ordered the bombings when peace talks had broken down. An Air Force history...
Oh, when they broke down, I wonder who fucked up those peace talks.
Definitely.
I wonder what party was the one who
this
broke down
is
the peace talks.
Yeah, no. This is 72 we're talking about, but it was Kissinger and Nixon who derailed the 68 peace talks.
Well, and they were still derailing at this time. I mean, this is what
Yeah.
Kissinger was saying. It's like, well, we need to just show them that we're serious by bombing them some more, and they'll agree because they were sticking on the issue of reparations for the war, which we all, by the way, this didn't even fucking work because we agreed to the reparations and just never fucking paid them, which, Jimmy Carter luckily said that, hey, there was, people lost things on both sides, so I don't think we need to talk about reparations anymore. We're good.
The Charlottesville...
Yeah. Hey, there's violence on both sides. I mean, look, 50,000 Americans died. I mean, 3 million people in China, Southeast Asia did, and are still dying, by the way, to this day from landmines and cluster bombs and things like that. But why talk about that when you're busy having fun at a memorial? A little Vietnam War
For
park,
a killing machine.
Yeah, no, that's still killing people to this day.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
An Air Force history says the bombing, called Operation Linebacker 2, Richard Nixon did love football, killed some 1,600 people in those two areas.
There's some story, and I don't know if it's actually true, that he would call, they called the Dallas Cowboys, I think, at halftime, and, gave them play ideas.
Definitely did that, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, hey, why don't you... It was probably another thing, too, where he's like, why don't you try and get in the end zone? Using that famous... I'm talking to Henry here, and we have a brilliant strategy.
This is the Madman theory of football.
Yeah,
you score more points
yeah.
than your opponent. This is the plane that also was featured in Vietnam anti-war posters, using photos of a B-52. And for the listeners, this was before smartphones. So this is
these are not smartphone photos.
Just photos.
These are phone photos. Or not phone photos, these are camera photos.
Camera, yes.
Okay.
Dropping its payload of bombs. On May 5th, 1970, some 5,000 demonstrators in Seattle took part in the first anti-war freeway march in American history. Well, that's good for us, I guess.
Yeah, weird. Interesting. Why do you think they were using the B-52 dropping bombs in their pictures or in their flyers to symbolize the horrific insanity of the war?
I think it's the
Probably
same.
'cause
Do you think they'll cover that?
Memorializing it. I think it's the same reason they're memorializing it here in this city.
Yeah.
Right? It's because it's
it's
where
so
it's
cool.
from. It's its hometown.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. We're just about to learn that. But this is also the region where Boeing is a major military contractor and is home to bases that include Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, Fairchild Air Force Base, and Joint Base Lewis McChord. Jim Farmer, 71 of Bellevue, piloted B-52s. It was a challenge to fly, he says, like driving an old truck that doesn't have power steering. Pretty sluggish.
Cool. Driving an old truck over innocent people.
Yeah. It's also like, thanks for the story, Grandpa.
It's like in this analogy, he's like the guy who drives into crowds. Right, in a truck. In a box truck.
This is exactly like the story you would get from some old man who drove a bus in the segregation South, and he's sitting there telling you about it was hard making left turns back then, and you're like, Yeah, get to the part about the segregated bus. Like, I think you're really leaving out the story anybody cares about. Like, who gives a shit how hard it was to fly?
I think you two are being awfully hard on Farmer, and I would like you... I mean, you can talk about the suffering that he helped inflict on other people, but maybe you should think about his suffering. Farmer is tall, like us. He's 6'2". It was very uncomfortable. It was built to carry a payload. You can't stand up. Can you imagine not being able to stand up?
It sounds like nobody suffered like he has.
The only way you can stand up is on the ladder.
Wait a minute. So what it sounds like you're saying is this is the only plane in the entire Air Force where it is possible to stand up.
Standing up is a typical thing you can do while flying the plane. Well, also, too, like... Never mind, just fuck this guy.
It was so uncomfortable that unlike every other plane we flew, you could fucking walk around in it.
Well, you know, like, every like, concentration camp had the guard that had to look through the window to make sure everybody died in the shower. Could you imagine him just telling you a story, and his takeaway from that time was like, that window's, like, a little high for me. I'm a little short. I had to be, like, up on my tippy toes. And it could take upwards of 20, 30 minutes for them all to go. Talk about leg cramps, you know? Like, and that's his takeaway, and you're just like, God, we should have killed more of you. Like, so fucking many more.
Oh, yeah. Well, his plane was shot down during that
Fucking
11-day
good.
Christmas bombing. He says he could see a North Vietnamese guided missile changing directions as it was targeting the plane.
Hell yeah.
That fucking rules. And by the way, the real heroes, obviously the people of Vietnam for resisting the United States and American imperialism.
For shooting
but
down
also
that plane.
the Soviet workers who created all those beautiful fucking missiles to shoot those fucking planes down. All of them, I hope, got awards of the Soviet Union, and good for them. They should take... Some workers should actually take pride in their work.
Yeah. Fair enough. We were fortunate. We weren't on fire. The wings stayed on. We lost all the hydraulic power and electrical power, but the mechanical linkage continued, he remembered. Of the 6-man crew, all were rescued that same day, except one man who was not found. Farmer is one of the committee members that saved the B-52 on exhibit. It had languished at Payne Field since 1991, towed from one location to another there.
So you saved it. So it was owned by Boeing. Mm-hmm. It was sitting very nearby
in the giant scrapyard that they call Payne Field. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, and it was mobile.
Yeah, isn't there like a rusty car in one of those Cars movie? It was like that. It was only a long and massive effort by vets that B-52G Stratofortress number 92584 found his new home. So that's the second typo I found. Just repainting cost $200,000, and then unbolting the wings and dismantling the plane into 4 parts and transporting it from Everett to the museum cost $400,000, says Farmer.
So Boeing
So if you add those...
didn't pay for this then.
Oh, probably the city did. They probably were like, probably like, what money can we take from homeless services? And just threw that out.
Well, it sounds like they raised money from other dumb vets and like people on the internet and Tom Hanks or something. I don't know. He's like troop worshiper in chief in this movie.
Fuck.
But Boeing's like, this is on their property down there at their Museum of Flight. It's at the Museum of Flight.
Right.
Like, they're put all... I don't know.
Well, I love too the idea that Boeing couldn't shell out $600,000.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's like
fucking rules.
Yeah.
For their own thing that they charge admission to.
Yeah.
Like, this is called a memorial park, but I mean, maybe this will be just maybe this is along the road. It's open to the public. I don't know, but I mean, it's at the Museum of Flight, so most of that is.
I don't know. I can't wait to go memorialize the good deeds in Vietnam.
I think we should take a field trip. But
we do need to go get 737
I know.
hats.
I've been
We need
meaning
737 swag.
For next episode. Or hopefully I'll have those.
We could probably find at Goodwill or one of these someplace where they can dump like clothes, just some 737 Max swag.
Well, there's gonna be a photo of like African kids.
Like 737 Max hats. Yeah. We need to get those. We need to write somebody and get those. Yeah.
So here's where Farmer fucking just jumps over us like Vince Carter and dunks on our face. He says he sees a bit of irony in number 92584, now nicknamed Midnight Express, finding a home in Seattle. Progressives, they wouldn't be able to be as active as they are if it wasn't for the military, says Farmer.
I love that conservatives always say this, and I love that nobody ever asks them, what thing do you think the military has done that has guaranteed anybody anything in the United States? Like,
he didn't even say. Yeah. What does he even say? What is it?
Don't worry.
Progressives wouldn't be able to be as active. Oh, he's talking about jogging.
Yeah.
I think
it's
like
so.
keeping keeping mobile in your old age. I guess.
I'll tell you a funny story. So in 2003, in Lubbock, Texas, right? If we can do a little digression from Seattle, they literally had a fucking pro-war rally because we had been doing anti-war stuff. So they had some radio show, probably Jason Rantz, had a giant fucking pro-war rally, and I remember, being somewhat conned into this idea of we should go in silent protest. So, like, there's 20 of us on the outskirts of this field, meekly sitting with our signs, and maybe like 200 or 300 people at this pro-war rally, and we have like 50 cops all staring at us. And I just remember the guy on stage. There was a guy who was like the leader of the anti-war group in Lubbock. There was this guy named Trevor Smith who was who would be in the paper a lot. And the real problem with Trevor was that he had a red beard and red hair and was from the Midwest and looked fucking exactly like me. And so the radio guy starts shouting on stage. He was like, and those fucking anti-war protesters over there, if this was Saddam Hussein's Iraq, we could go over and kill those people. And everybody, huge applause. Huge applause. Like, people like Trevor Smith. And Trevor, by the way, is gone. I'm there. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Dude, I should have shaved.
So what he's saying is, I would love to live in a place like Saddam Hussein's Iraq.
Exactly.
Where I could fucking... Oh, God.
Absolute punchline. Huge applause line for we should go over and kill those guys. And then he's like, oh, but this is America where people can, have the right to say whatever. And like everybody dies. Like the crowd dies. Like just dies immediately. He's like, oh. And then he just goes, because the military, and then
what a dumb
sounds like some fucking Mad Libs.
Yeah,
like...
fucking rolled.
Wow. Well, to your point, Greg, Eric is gonna follow up on this and really get to the bottom of the statement from Farmer. But that's for another day. On Saturday at Memorial, it was a time when the vets surrounded Jim Mattis. The general seemed at home. God, that was extremely poorly written. Eric,
that's the only problem we had with it.
You suck, man. Yeah. You retire.
Yeah, that was fucking awful, and anybody who's
also what he was covering is awful too.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
But
no, the article was awful because of what it covered.
I think it's generous to say he was covering it, but yeah.
What little blurb he had. Well, and for people who think that we're being too mean on the to the Vietnam vets, go read Marilyn Young's The Vietnam Wars, and then go treat yourself. Usually, when you're in a good mood, having maybe a nice sunny day, go read Nick Turse's "Kill Everything That Moves," which is literally just a blow by blow of every war crime in Vietnam. So just enjoy that little treat.
The greatest hits.
Yeah. Feel good about yourself reading that, you fucking piece.
It's not about like. Yeah. Look, it is about fuck these people who thought it was cool. Like these guys who are there, like at this thing, not going fuck this war, like plenty of vets did.
Yeah,
but saying this rules.
And again, I mean, imagine this thing that definitely doesn't happen. But imagine like World War II, like German vets, like just being like, "Hey, let's not talk about the cause of the war, what we did. I mean, let's just celebrate the veterans being veterans, right?" It's like, no, like,
Fuck, that was grim. That was some grim shit.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you for sharing that with me, Eric.
God, fuck off.
And with that Rosie recounting, I think we're done here. But we have some patrons to thank. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, so
we have some people, some names to associate with our calls for
Violence
murder.
against the troops.
the murder of the troops, which
and elderly men.
Southeast Asian slurs that I will probably cut out now.
let's just be clear that we're talking about, judicial murder.
Yeah, we're not like Obama. Come on.
Yeah.
So, our first new patron is Alan Codd, who, Brian, you said is one of your best buds from...
San Antonio. What's up, Chewy? Anybody that's down in San Antonio, go to his bar. His name is escaping me right now. Faust. Go to Faust. It rules.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And Bren Krakauer. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Thank you for supporting the show. If you want to be cool like them, go on Patreon. There are a growing number of
A movement, you might
B-52 like episodes that we deploy strategically to win your hard-earned dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, every anti-episode you hear in here, there's a pro episode where we take the other side. That's the Patreon episode.
Well, yeah. If you're a longtime fan, you know we're actually very similar to Katie Herzog.
Yeah.
So with that, I think unless either of you two have any final words, what jobs you might take in Amazon Kid Town, or
I just look forward to the icy grip of death.
well, there's a B-52 waiting for you.
Thank God. Drop me out of it.
All right. Well, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.